How's it going, guys? Earlier this year, we saw France travel to New Zealand to play the All Blacks in their first tour. And then we ended up seeing the All Blacks play in the Rugby Championship, which was one of the most fiercely contested rugby championships in recent memory. So we've seen a lot of promise. We've seen a lot of new faces come through as All Blacks, but we've also seen some serious performances come through and definitely players to look forward to in the future. Now, I don't only want to be looking at what has already happened this year. I want to look into what's going to be happening in a couple of weeks, just in November, where we get to see the All Blacks play again up against quite some heavy artillery teams like Ireland and England. So please like, subscribe. I would love to hear what your thoughts are in relation to this, and I'd love to hear some predictions. So drop your thoughts in the comment section below and let's get into it. So, like I said, in terms of the All Blacks, we got to see them play up against the French, and yes, admittedly, the French did not put their number one team in. They played sort of a B, C, D team, and there were some elite players littered in and around there. But nevertheless, the All Blacks managed to get the job done, and that we got to see quite a few players. We got to see the likes of Fabian Holland really come through and put in some serious performances, where he was pretty much playing 18 minutes a game, and he kind of continued on that form. Although he wasn't playing as consistently, he still put in some serious performances. But then we got to see the All Blacks play in the Rugby Championship. We saw them beat the Springboks at Eden Park, but then lose at Wellington. We saw them play heavily up against the Argentinians, heavily up against Argentina, where admittedly they ended up losing in that second test up against Argentina. So we did get to see a lot of growth from the All Blacks. Yes, they are not unbeatable, and they were fighting with South Africa for that number one spot. Time waits for nobody, right? It's sink or swim. Who's going to play better? Who's going to be putting in the better performances? We got to see some serious performances from players like Simon Parker, who really solidified his spot at number 6, having Tupou Vaa'i at 5. And then we also got to see someone like Leroy come in, who is an absolute Duracell bunny. The guy, he is so rapid, and he just added that extra little edge to the All Blacks game, and I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Definitely one for the future. You've seen him playing Super Rugby, and he has such a bright future. Now, the All Blacks have really been struggling in terms of injuries. They haven't exactly had the best luck, whether it's Scott Barrett, whether it's Patrick Tuipulotu, whether it's Cam Roigard, Noah Hotham. I mean, they really struggled when it came down to their scrum half position. They really struggle having to play Finlay Christie, which is normally a 4th choice scrum half. So they really struggled, but albeit Finlay Christie actually put in a really good performance whenever he was actually played. It's just such a shame. But we did end up getting to see Cam Roigard coming back at the end of the Rugby Championship. We got to see a little bit more of Cortez Ratima coming back at the end of the Rugby Championship, and that's really started to solidify the All Blacks depth. Now, the one thing that Razor has said in one of his interviews is there's a couple players that are out. Right, Tupou Vaa'i, he's not going to be ready for the Northern Tour. We are not going to get to see Noah Hotham, and we are not going to get to see Tyrell Lomax, I believe. So there's going to be a couple players there that, yes, it's not the end of the world, and he has said they want to increase their depth in terms of each position. Ideally, they would want an elite 4th place, a 4th place person for each and every position, which is pretty much every coach's dream. There aren't many teams that are actually able to do that. New Zealand are definitely one of them. But we take a look into the future games, and by the end of the video, I also want to give my predicted 23 that could potentially start for the Northern Tour. So taking a look into this, we do have Ireland coming up, which is definitely going to be a huge test. And this is going to happen on the 1st of November. So you can definitely expect the Irish to really come packing, because this is going to be a huge game. The Irish are going to want to be coming away with a big win, and they have some serious depth. They've got some serious players like Dan Sheehan. They've got players like, I don't know whether Caelan Doris is going to be available, but whether he's available, they got James Lowe, they got Gibson Park. They've just got 1,000,001 players that are some of the most elite players in world rugby. So they're definitely one that is going to be really taking the All Blacks to their limit. Week after that, they are going to be playing Scotland, who's going to be a slightly easier test. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be easier than Ireland. But still, nevertheless, you should never discount a Scottish team, because they will happily hit you where it hurts the most. England is definitely going to be a very strong opponent. We take a look at how they finished in the Six Nations. They ended up finishing second behind France, and they have really put in some solid performances. We've seen the likes of Henry Pollock really come through. We've seen the likes of Maro Toje, who, took to being captain of England like a fish to water. So they are definitely growing, and I'm just happy that Jack Willis is not part of that England squad. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one. And then Wales is by far going to be the easiest test on the 22nd of November, which I can pretty much see the All Blacks kind of flying through this and kind of just giving any additional players some game time. So it's definitely going to be an interesting interesting tour of the North. But honestly, when I take a look at the players, when I take a look at the squad that's potentially going to be available, it gets me thinking as to who's going to be available, who's going to play. And there are a couple names that do pop to mind, but ultimately, this is my squad, who I think will who will probably start, especially up against Ireland on the 1st of November. So we have Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor, Fletcher Newell as my pack. We then have Scott Barrett captaining the side once again, and Fabian Holland. I think Fabian Holland has been an instrumental player. He's got the legs, he's got the energy, and he can just bang. The guy is ridiculously good. So I have that as my lock pairing. I am keeping Simon Parker, Ardie Savea, and Wallace Satiti as my back row. I really like this combination. I think Simon Parker is really good. I think I'm really feeling him at 6. He is, he does really remind me of Kano. So I really like him at 6, and I think he's just going to do very well. And especially up against someone like Ireland, who you are going to want the legs on him, because players like Josh van der Fleer, players like Caelan Doris, they are not going to be easy to go up against. So I think having someone like Simon Parker is definitely a boon. Obviously, you can put I would say Tupou Vaa'i, but even then, there's a couple different options that you could potentially have. You have players like Duplessis Karifi and so on. So they have a couple options that they could potentially use. But yeah, I'm sticking with Simon Parker at 6. In terms of my backs, I am going Cam Roigard at 9. I think he's going to be essential. I cannot see them veering away from Cam Roigard. We saw just how much of a key component he is to the All Blacks setup, and I think he's definitely going to start, especially up against Ireland. Beauden Barrett, same thing. He did injure himself. He should be back for the first test up against Ireland, and for whatever reason, Beauden Barrett doesn't start. That should definitely be Damien McKenzie. But again, that partnership between Cam Roigard and Beauden Barrett, that experience, that tempo, that tactical, master, they are just masterminds. So I think having that partnership is going to be crucial, and this is going to be a recipe for success to have them two starting, especially up against Ireland. And then, in terms of my wings, I have Caleb Clarke at 11, and then I have Leroy Carter at 14. I think this kind of new, this new style backs, they're young, they're rapid, they got so much pace. Caleb Clarke has a fair amount of experience as well at an international level. Leroy Carter is only getting better. I think more exposure, having him at 14 is only going to benefit him. the All Blacks do definitely have a couple options. They have Tava Tavanawai, who should be back from injury as well. They got players like Reiko Ioane, but I don't think Reiko Ioane is going to be available for this. I'm pretty certain he will already be with he will already be with Leinster, so I don't think he's going to be available for this. That's why I just haven't even stuck him in my squad at all. But yeah, Leroy Carter and then Caleb Clarke as my wingers. In terms of my centre partnership, I'm going Beauden Barrett, Quinn Tupaia. I think there's too much faith has been put into Billy Proctor. Quinn Tupaia, I think, has kind of opened up everybody's eyes as to what he is capable of at 13, and I think that definitely does put him above the pecking order on Billy Proctor. Whether Billy Proctor makes the bench at all, I don't know, but I really, really liked Quinn Tupaia at 13. I think the performances that he has not only put on when he has come on, when he has started, the guy has been absolutely phenomenal, far superior than what Billy Proctor had played the entire Rugby Championship. So I'm really liking this partnership. And then good old Mr. Will Jordan at 15. So I think that's gonna be the starting 15. And then in terms of my full 23, I'm going Taukeaho, Tamaiti Williams, and then Pasilio Tosi as my props and hooker. Patrick Tuipulotu, Duplessis Karifi, Cortez Ratima, Anton Lienert-Brown, and then D-Mac at 23. So I do feel, obviously, Cortez Ratima is there's no two ways. If he's fit, he's ready. He is definitely going to be on that bench for Ireland. Anton Lienert-Brown, I think he covers quite a few different positions. Damien McKenzie can pretty much cover pretty much everything as well. And then using the likes of Will Jordan, if needed to cover wings, they have a good amount of versatility around the backs. So they can pretty much cover any single position that they want. Even then, Quinn Tupaia can cover a couple different positions. So I think having something like this would definitely improve their odds and give them not only have that experience, have that physicality, but also have that rapid pace, that agility and that ability to just absolutely leave everybody in the dust. So this is my starting 23, who I think will start for the Ireland game. But yeah, I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are in relation to this. The All Blacks have had a pretty good 2025 so far, and we've seen a lot of growth. We've seen a lot of new faces. We've seen a lot of experienced faces just get better. We've seen players like Artie Surveyor, who has just put in monstrous performances, and he's put in performances that have literally saved the All Blacks and potentially gotten them a couple wins as well. So yeah, the All Blacks are just building that depth. They are ridiculously good. They are so scary, and I think they are going to be coming through with these November tests with a very, very big high. I do feel that the Ireland test and the England test are by far going to be the most difficult, with Ireland being the most difficult. I think the All Blacks can definitely get a win out of Scotland, England, and Wales. The Ireland game, that's going to be a completely different ball game. The only thing that I could potentially say is the All Blacks have had a lot more time playing. They not only have they gone through that France tour, they've gone through the Rugby Championship, and then a couple weeks after the Rugby Championship finishes, they go up against Ireland, where Ireland, they haven't been playing, right? So especially considering this was a Lions tour year, a lot of the players have actually been rested, right? A lot of them aren't playing for clubs. They aren't doing anything. They are still recovering from the Lions tour of Australia. So this is going to be a fresh Ireland, but an Ireland that also hasn't had any hasn't had any exposure to high level games this year so far. Well, outside of the Six Nations, and well, let's just say post Lions tour. There's a big gap between the last Lions test and the Ireland test, and then not only that, because yes, a vast majority of Irish were on the Lions tour, but coming back and playing as a squad, playing as a team, back as the Irish, they're going to need a bit of time, to get back into the swing of things. So not having any, not having anything major that can really set them, where the All Blacks would already be playing the Argentinians, Australians, and South Africa playing high-level elite rugby, with a lot at stake. So it's definitely going to be a difficult game. Please drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.